Hello and welcome to day 4 of the Azure Advent Calendar. My name is Matt Wharton and I'm a systems engineer from Bath in England. And today I'm going to be talking to you about Azure Site Recovery. So Azure Site Recovery is a disaster recovery solution from Microsoft. It's quite a flexible solution. It allows you to replicate virtual machines from on-premises, either VMware or Hyper-V, up into Azure, or from one Azure region to another Azure region, or alternatively you can just use it as an orchestration service and replicate your virtual machines from one on-premises site to a secondary site. But before you even start replication, you need to do a bit of deployment planning. So what I'm going to be showing you today is how to set that up, how to install and run the deployment planner, and how to then generate a report to give you metrics on bandwidth, storage, costs, etc. So let's get started, and we're here in the Microsoft Azure portal, and the first thing you need to do is create a recovery services vault. So you can do this via an ARM template and the command line, but I don't see why you'd want to. you're just deploying this once, I hope. You've only got one site that you wish to recover. In the search box, type recovery, and then click on Recovery Services Vaults, and click Create Recovery Services Vault. And as with most things in the Azure portal, you need to name them, choose a subscription, choose a resource group or create a resource group, and choose the location that you wish to create the resource in. So as I said before, there is an ARM template for deploying this, but again, I really don't see the need. It's not something that you're doing on a regular basis. At least I'm not, I don't know. So that's going to create the Recovery Services Vault. Deployment is in progress, and we'll just wait for that to finish. Open up the newly created Recovery Services Vault. And then click Getting Started under Site Recovery. ASR is pretty flexible, so you can replicate VMs that are in Azure, so maybe from one region to another region, or you can replicate on-premises machines. To start with on-premises machines, you need to prepare the infrastructure. So where your machine's located, either on premises or Azure, where do you want to replicate them to? So one thing you can do with the Azure Site Recovery is replicate them to another on-premises site. So from one site to another site. It doesn't have to be into Azure. You can just use ASR as the orchestrator for your replication. But here we're going to replicate from an on-premises VMware server to Azure. Well, click OK, and on to step 2, which is deployment planning. Now, you don't have to do this, but it makes sense to download the Site Recovery Planner, and then you can accurately estimate things like the network bandwidth, storage and other requirements. So click on download, and you will download a zip file which you need to extract to a location from where you wish to run the planner. Okay, so I've extracted the contents of the zip file, and then you need to run the deployment planner from the command line. If you just run the deployment planner executable file without any parameters, it will give you a whole long list of instructions on the usage and the different parameters that you can use. So it's a two-step process. You first need to run the deployment planner in the profiling mode. So this will assess your infrastructure and we'll keep monitoring it for a period of time. And then once that's complete, you can run the deployment planner again, but in the reporting mode, and it then takes all the data that is extracted from the monitoring and produces a nice report giving various bits of data such as cost, bandwidth, and so on. So to start profiling, you run the deployment planner with the parameters operation start profiling. You need to specify which virtualization platform you're using, a host server, a text file which is listing the virtual machines that you want to profile, and the period of time that you wish to profile for. So I've just, for demonstration purposes, put 30 minutes, but usually you'd want to run this for a few days, maybe a couple of weekdays and over the weekend also. It asks for the password for the user that you specified in the command. It will perform a couple of checks, and the checks are found because you need VMware vSphere PowerCLI 6.0 on the machine. So let's go ahead and install that. So in PowerShell, let's see if I can download and install this module from the PowerShell gallery. Okay, so it seems to be in the PowerShell gallery, although that is version 11.3, but this may be compatible, so let's go ahead and install it. I think the PowerCLI module is pretty big, relatively speaking, so okay, well, let's just jump ahead and we'll come back once that's all installed. Let's see if I can run the deployment planner again. So back in the command prompt, and let's run this same command again, entering the vCenter password, performing checks, and apparently that has failed, so I'm going to have to install VMware vSphere PowerCLI 6.0 because it won't work with the newer version. That is great. Okay, so I have downloaded the installation file from the VMware website and let's install it. So let's come back to this once that's all installed. Let's just click finish to shut this down and go back to the deployment planner. Right, running the command again, third time lucky. Let's hope that it passes the checks this time. Okay, validated the PowerCLI version successfully. Brilliant. But I could not connect to the vCenter server. Incorrect username or password. Okay, so it doesn't like root, so let's use my domain account. Enter my password. Let's see if it works this time. And who would have thought that the deployment planner would be this difficult? Okay, so it looks like it's working. Let's try to find the virtual machines that were in the text file, the profile VM list 1.txt. Okay, so this is as expected. So there's a few VMs which are not actually on this vCenter server, plus a couple which are, but which are switched off, just to give you some idea of how it might look if specified something it can't find. But I want to go ahead and profile the remaining 15 VMs anyway. So let's just click yes. So this is going to run for 30 minutes. Like I said before, you probably want to run this for 3 or 4 days. And don't close the session or console. So we'll come back to this in half an hour. Okay, so the profiling operation completed, and we're now going to run the second operation, that is the generate report operation. And again, you're specifying the virtualization platform, the host server, a list of VMs, username, some other parameters such as the number of hours in which you want to complete replication of all the VMs, your desired recovery point objective, you want a target region, and a currency that you want your report to be in. And apparently I forgot to use my subscription ID parameter, so let's add that in and try again. Okay, I need to add my Azure credentials and log into Azure so we can access my subscription. Oh, okay, fetching latest prices and could not fetch rates for off ID and currency. Okay, so that failed. Brilliant. So let's just run this again, just using the defaults. So this is going to give me the costs in dollars, probably for some kind of US region, and the default values for the RPO and time to upload all the servers. It's preparing the report, calculating IOPS, profiling data, mapping virtual machines, and generate an Excel report. So let's open it up. Well, it's taken some effort to get our report, but I think it's totally worth it. The deployment report shows you how many machines that were profiled, compatible machines, any incompatible machines, and your desired recovery point objective, and then gives metrics on the required bandwidth you would need to meet that RPO, number of storage accounts, expected number of Azure cores, how many configuration servers you would need on premises to replicate this amount of virtual machines. Let's just scroll down a bit. Oops, a bit too far. And the number of RPO violations over the profiling period. So this would be at peak times of the day when you might not actually be able to replicate the amount of data that's being produced. So for 90% of the time, I can achieve the 15 minutes RPO, and I'd have one RPO violation, which is pretty good. The initial replication, so this will be hundreds of gigabytes usually, and our bandwidth, it could be completed within the 72 hours at a bandwidth of 2 megabits per second. The total DR cost per month in pounds, showing a little pie charts, the compute, storage network and the licensing costs, and then we can view things such as the storage placement. So this will give details about the number of disks and the disk SKUs that you might need, so disk types. We can see details of the compatible VMs and the details of that VM, as it were, replicated into Azure. So the VM size, number of disks, disk size and so on. And any incompatible VMs, along with the reason why it's not compatible. So in this case, Windows 7 is not supported, or at least Windows 7 32-bit is not supported. And we can see a breakdown of the cost estimation. So some of this will be a DR drill. So this is failing over to the Azure site, just to test that actually you could fail over in the case of a real disaster. So this will be running the VMs, the compute costs and so on. Ordinarily you're just paying storage costs plus a license fee per VM. So you're only actually paying the compute costs and network costs during a failover exercise. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Please stick around and view some more videos in the Azure Advent Calendar. And please check out my future videos on Azure Site Recovery. Thank you very much. Goodbye.